right, everybody, welcome back to Fermat Fridays. I've got a returning guest, probably one of our favorite guests of all time. I've got Sarah coming back to join us on the show. Welcome back, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Sarah, what I'm hoping to cover today is a lot of times when people get started with Fermat, they don't necessarily realize like how quickly and how many funnels and post-click experiences they can actually build. And once you kind of jump into the Fermat experience, it can kind of be a bit daunting to figure out like, where do I start? So what I'm hoping to cover by talking to you today is like, how do we think about where brands should start with creating these funnels? What kind of directions should they go in? And kind of just start to talk about all the different funnel variations we create here at Fermat and like how we connect those to ads. So I think the best place to start is like a new brand onboards into Fermat. What is our general recommendation to kind of get started building these funnels? They have a blank slate. Where do we start? How do we figure that out?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there is some variance by whatever vertical the brand is in, but generally I would say that there's a couple like hero templates that generally have worked really well across the board for different brands using Fermat. Um, One of which was really like our first mobile oriented experience, is kind of that like shoppable video format, which tends to work really well with UGC style videos, maybe like reviews, testimonials, explainer videos, or like get ready with me's. And then we have like more of a 5 reasons why, which I would say, like if you're a supplement brand, for example, and you have like one key value prop or like maybe a few key value props, your ads are probably focused on like targeting those sort of problem hooks. And so I would say like a really good place to start is to generate an advertorial that really kind of answers the question of like why your product solves for that specific focus area. Another one that's really popular is kind of like a meet the brand type experience. So for prospecting campaigns, say you have like a really cool founder story, or you have like a celebrity backing for some examples, or you just have like a big differentiator that customers would like be more inclined to buy your product if they kind of knew what your brand was about. And so that one is great for prospecting campaigns, and generally brands are using Fermat to acquire new customers. So that's generally where we start. And I think that those kind of like templates are really popular for a brand that's like just getting started.
Yeah, so to summarize that, we've got kind of like the shoppable video format, advertorial, meet the brand. And I would say like when we're thinking about Fermat funnels, these are kind of like you said, the templates are kind of like the guardrails to build a funnel within. And what I think is really interesting is like all three of these templates or formats lend themselves really well to like going after being specific between the ad and the funnel or the post-click experience. So like you hit on one of them when you were saying like, hey, going after a specific value prop, or in the shoppable video formats, like a get ready with me. Like for
Yeah.
me, trying to think through the when a brand's onboarding, trying to think through like, okay, what do they want to say at the ad level, and how can we basically like make sure that that promise that's happening at the ad level or the specificity you want to talk with actually propagates through the entire experience. Because a lot of growth marketers get like caught with, oh, I was very specific at the ad level, but then I'm pointing back to a PDP where I was talking about a very specific value prop, goes to a PDP where all 26 of my value props are listed on the page, and the thing that was in the ad is just a bullet point. So like
Yeah.
maybe let's go through like a few industries and say like, hey, how can we apply these templates to like very specific use cases for those industries? So for those listening, the brands that kind of like naturally come to Fermat, we've got supplements, men's apparel, and kind of like beauty, cosmetics. Let's just say beauty for that last one. Which of those do you think is the best place to start in terms of maybe going a little more specific on these?
Yeah, let's start with beauty because I feel like there's a lot that we can do there. I kind of split out beauty between like skincare and then makeup because I feel like the buying journeys are very different. Makeup tends to have a lot more like different shade variants. Skincare tends to be a lot more like educational. There's a lot of skincare brands, and I think like being really clear about like what your differentiators are super important. So it's like a slightly different approach. But for example, like in beauty as a whole, a lot of brands that I work with are using like whitelisted ads. So they're like partnering with a creator. They're running media like behind that creator's handle. And I think a really good example of something that works great for beauty is by like carrying the entire creator's story like through the funnel, is doing more of like a co-branded influencer shoppable video page where like you actually have that influencer's profile photo as the avatar of the shop, and you're adding messaging around it like Sarah's get ready with me or like Sarah's morning routine. And especially if that influencer has like a custom promo code, making sure that that specific code is both embedded in the shop and like called out specifically with messaging on banners and things like that. So that's like one example for beauty.
I love that one for two reasons. Like you said, hey, if they have a specific promo code, you can kind of just like auto apply it as it's coming through that ad. Because again, one of the benefits of Fermat is it's in these kind of like isolated experiences where you're not just sending people back to the site where kind of anything could happen. They're
Yeah.
coming in through that influencer ad, so you know to apply that right then and there. I also love when, especially in beauty, and it usually happens on influencers or like co-branded, is that get ready with me style content. And a lot of times there's actually multiple products that are being shown in that get ready with me. There's like a hero product, and then there's like, I don't know, I'm not a makeup expert, but like, hey, like use something, and then there's the setting spray, and they like kind of like do a bunch of things inside that video. With Vermont, you could
Yeah.
actually just build a bundle that is specific to that interaction of all those products. So like Sarah's favorites, here's all the ones that were in that ad. You click through and you just make it easy to kind of shop for that. That's what we were getting at with like, hey, the ad is promising something, and being able to pull like the experience doesn't end post click. Like all you got at that point was the click. You didn't get the purchase. So how do
Right.
we make sure that that experience is seamless all the way through? I love that one. I think like
Yeah.
another really cool example that I've seen you use is kind of like on the other side of this is like shades, colors in beauty, and like even in skincare to some extent, like you have to kind of find the product for you, which can get a little dicey if you don't build the experience the right way.
Totally. Yeah, I think something that I'm trying to crack right now is like, how do we get complexion to sell easier on like D2C? For example, like a lot of beauty brands that I work with are like, our like top selling SKUs on paid are all like color products. Like they're not complexion products because people really want to like go into the store and try on foundation or try on concealer. Like, how do we get complexion to work on paid? And I think the ways that I've been thinking about this is like, how do you break down the like journey to find your shade, and how do you make that really easy? And like a lot of brands use things like quizzes. Like now we have an integration with Octane. You can actually create like a shade finder quiz and actually embed that in the Vermont experience. Another way that we're starting to explore making journey a little bit easier is like, how do we leverage our PDP like separation tools, and like how do we leverage like virtual products to maybe like break down a foundation SKU into like 4 different shade families, where someone can say, oh, this type of shade family is probably where I would land. Like I'm going to click in here and see 4 variants instead of like 52. So there's definitely like a lot of ways to use the back end features of Fermat to really experiment and like help that buyer journey, because I think like makeup products can be like very difficult to kind of like crack, and it's really hard to serve the most personalized experience when like so many people have different skin types, different shades, etc. And so there's a lot of tools at your disposal to kind of like experiment with that.
Yeah, and like just in general, because it can be like complex to do this, even just being able to build a funnel specific to like the value prop of a specific product, or the ability to actually just like pull a ad about a specific product all the way through. Because when we know someone was looking at that product, we can actually build the experience to be the best fit for that persona and for the product they're trying to find, versus like if you go to a general PDP or if you go to a custom lander, you're kind of like guessing who was clicking that and trying to like be average, but not necessarily in a bad way, be average in a good way, because like you don't know who's coming in. So therefore you kind of need to be all over the place. Just that level of
Right.
specificity that we can get to, because like you can create these funnels like very quickly and create these experiences. You could actually have like a value prop funnel for every single product. You could have a persona
Totally.
funnel for every single product. And I think like that's the big takeaway of like if you're a beauty or a skincare brand listening to this is like start to get specific at the product level and start to get specific at the persona level and chop this up finer so that you can build the experience that's tailored to that need or that problem that they're going to be coming in with.
Right. And it doesn't even have to be like such a grand change. Like you could literally
Yeah.
just clone a shop and like change the headline. And as long as that hook is attractive to like what you're trying to message or aligned, I guess, it's such a simple, like quick change that can make such a drastic impact on like the way that people engage with the product. So yeah, it doesn't have to take a ton of time. It's just like changing the text or changing the headline.
And yeah, or like changing a single image too. Like I remember seeing a
Yeah.
funnel and it was an ad that was targeting like, hey, women 50, like the best foundation for women 50 plus. And it's like, if you're going to take that ad angle and you come at like, it better be merchandised with the right products and have like the right
Yeah.
visuals associated with it, because you went after a very specific persona. If I come
Totally.
in and don't see people matching what I came in from, peace. Like I'm not shopping that.
Totally. And that's the thing about like why I love the PDP features that we do. It's like you can clone a specific PDP experience and literally just change like the custom images on that carousel to make sure that they match with whatever storytelling you're doing on the lander. So like yeah, if you're targeting women 50 plus, like you should absolutely have those types of models or like lifestyle imagery in the PDP as well. It's
Reviews
not
from
just the
people
lander.
that like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Like
love
if
that.
I click on that and I'm seeing a girl in her 20s, I'm going to be like, guys, what the hell?
All right, we covered beauty. Let's go supplements next. So, if I'm a supplement brand and I want to get started with Fermat funnels, I probably have like a certain set of ads that I'm already familiar with. What do we think some of those are, and like how do we create a good amount of funnels that are going to be effective for kind of like that ad set for supplements?
Yeah. I think supplements is all about like value prop testing, which I love. Usually when a supplement brand comes in, they have like a couple very like key kind of target audiences. Like for dose, for example, a lot of the value props that they test into are like bloating, fatigue, like liver enzyme levels, like things like that. And so the best place to start, I would say, for a supplement brand is like take one or two like key value props that you know resonate really well with your audience on paid, and let's create funnels that are like hyper specific to why your product solves or like speaks to those problem areas. And that's generally like a really good way to kind of like get started, make that like hyper personalized experience and just like see how consumers interact with it.
I like that too. And for anyone listening, like if you're the growth marketer on this, like your PDP for these particular products probably has these benefits broken out as like bullet points or sub points on the PDP. So like, yes, take the one that's resonating the best, the one that you tend to like hit at the ad level all the time. And then like the next iteration of that key benefit funnel is like, okay, go from the best benefit or the best two benefits and like actually chop this up into like all five of them and start to run ads that are targeting that benefit and then having those funnels go all the way through. And like Sarah mentioned, like even
Yeah.
just cloning something and making a few small changes so that it ends up being specific to that hook goes a long way here. Like the key benefits,
Yeah.
every product definitely has more than one key benefit that you are able to turn into funnels and different ad creative.
Totally. The other thing that I've started to love working with brands on is kind of like my journey taking XYZ product. I think that one is such a great like storyteller, and it also speaks to the time horizon for which like people can actually start to realize the benefit of taking a product. And I think that kind of like having that entire experience and like all of the effects that you feel, all of the benefits that you start to realize, has resonated like really well with, especially like UGC ads. Like people see a UGC video of someone talking about a product and then they click shop now and they get taken to like, here's literally what I noticed in the first 3 months of taking this brand's product. Like, I think that's a really great journey as well.
And these are way more effective with something like Fermat, because when you do those user journey stories, or like really any campaign that's focused around routine building or long-term benefits, it's really hard to educate like that in a few seconds. And generally speaking, at the ad level, you have like 5 seconds to get your point across. So if you can use those like
Yeah.
journey stories and just have a really effective hook, but then use the land, like all the post click surface you have to elaborate on that story. You don't need to try to make everything happen at the ad level. You can start to introduce that at the landing page level as well, which makes it just like way more effective than, oh yeah, I'm going to try to educate you on all these benefits and show the journey of someone over the last like 90 days in a, I don't know, first 15
Right.
seconds of a hook. With that, like the UGC angle, I think another thing in supplements is we talk a lot about like trusted source UGC. And what I find interesting about that is I was talking to someone about this like angle the other day, and they're like, oh yeah, we don't have any clinical trials or like doctors or anything like that. And I found it interesting that when we said trusted source, like people's minds immediately went to like, oh, it must be clinicals and doctors. Like, tell me about the trusted source kind of angle for supplements.
Yeah. I mean, I think like if you have a kind of like doctor, dermatologist figure, like that's great. But the reality is like not everyone is going to have that, which is totally fine. I think a trusted source could be just like another like-minded individual that's maybe an influencer, who's like a wellness junkie, or like someone who absolutely like loves skincare and reviews like all these brands and kind of gives their like honest take on it. I feel like that has so much weight as well. So like it doesn't necessarily have to be someone who like has an MD. It could be more of like an influencer or someone that's just very similar to you. And like if I saw, someone who's super into wellness, who's like around my age, has the same kind of like problem areas as me that I'm like looking to solve, I am likely to like trust that person. So yeah, it can be like any sort of like influencer as well. It doesn't have to be a doctor.
And basically, like kind of like the three things we talked about here in the funnel building really focuses around two main ideas, which is you should be building funnels that are specific to the value props of a product, and you should be building funnels that are specific to a particular persona that can buy it. And like we were saying, like I was talking to someone the other day and they were targeting moms with kids, and then their other persona was like endurance athletes. And I was like, these are like there's definitely going to be overlap here. Like there's going to be endurance moms with kids, but like in order to actually be effective advertising to
Yeah.
both of these, having a post-click experience where someone who's an endurance athlete is talking to me, or some like a mom with multiple kids is talking to me inside of that funnel, again, being able to build these at scale and quickly and make those changes, I can have those different ads in market and point those specific people who like are gravitating to those to, again, a specific experience in a way that you would never be able to do going to like like even a custom landing page, but like definitely not a PDP or a collection page. Like that's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Also, I think like the question is like, what's kind of the best way to start? Like, how do I generate this content? Especially if I'm like trying to create a PDP that is like specific to a certain persona or specific to a certain like value prop, or if I'm trying to create an advertorial that speaks to one of those things, like where is a great place to start? And I think like the content that you already have created
Yeah.
on the ad side, or like content that you've had people create for you, like literally just like scrape the audio off that, like transcribe it and like stick it into GPT and say, can you write me an advertorial? Here's my PDP contents. Like, how would you cater this towards the problem area that like this ad is talking about? And honestly, that's like a really good V1. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to have to like go through it with a fine tooth comb for like claims and whatever other details are like relevant to kind of QA check. But like, that's a great place to start.
1000% agree. Start with what you already have. Like we're saying, there's kind of infinite possibilities here, but the best place to start is with what's already working. How can we chop that up a bit finer than we are today? Because like chances are you have like
Yeah.
5 ads that are slightly different, but they're all pointing to the same destination. Take a look at that, reuse that content and say like, how could I take these 5 and instead of pointing them to the same place, point them to something unique? How would I build that up to
Right.
change it to make a better experience? Then you can layer on like, oh, I should probably create new ad creative because I now have the ability to make these funnels and be specific to every persona or every product. But yeah, I 1000% agree. Start with what you already have because you're going to be able to launch fast and learn fast. And again, like one of the biggest value props of Fermat, be able to experiment and see what's working. So like the best way to get started is to get started and just see what's happening so you can adapt, like measure it, adapt it, and then build something new.
100%.
All right, we got one last kind of like big vertical that we work with all the time, apparel, specifically men's apparel. We work with a lot of men's apparel brands. What about for those brands? Like where's the best place for them to get started with building funnels?
Yeah, I think for men's apparel, two really big things we've seen work really well are like the shopable video, obviously, because you get to see the pants like in use. Also, like certain angles work really well on the advert side, like the wives and girlfriends angle. Like I bought these jeans for my husband, and like now I can't stop touching his butt. Like things that are just really like fun and relevant for someone on paid ads to like see and engage with. Definitely like leaning into the virality angle. Like we've seen these pants have sold out like 8x times, work really well. I think for men's apparel too, like generally there's a lot of hero SKUs with just different colorways. And so
Yep.
like making it really easy on the PDP for people to actually just like go through different color variants, go through different inseams, but like not give them too much where it's like overwhelming. Like usually on men's apparel, we try and like stay pretty product specific, but just make that PDP experience like extremely easy for someone to kind of go through and like choose their size, choose their colorway, choose their inseam, and then check out. So like, yeah, I think for men's apparel, like keeping it very simple, using those like hooks that are very, that have a lot of like virality behind them, or the wives and girlfriends angle, for example. And yeah, just streamlining the buying journey.
Yeah, I think streamlining the buying journey is a big one there. Like a lot of what we've been talking about previously is like, hey, make some minor changes to like headlines at the PDP level or like a couple different visuals. But with men's apparel, like what we end up doing a lot is a little bit deeper customization into the PDP, like particular variants that I want to make sure are exposed, or like, hey, the ad was showing someone in the yellow shorts. Let's make sure when that PDP is merchandised inside of the funnel, yellow shorts are there. And like, hey, I might have 800 different options of this like pair of shorts with different inseams, line, not line, colors. Like, hey, let's take all of those and get them into a few that we think are going to be the top
Right.
sellers. But also, too, you can go another way here where it's like, hey, I actually want to move specific inventory. So I'm going to like put the
Mm-hmm.
ones I want to move inside of this
Yes,
ad at the forefront. So yeah, I would agree with you. Men's
exactly.
apparel is one of those ones where we do a lot more like product level customization. So like inside Fermat,
100%.
you can change up the lander, the PDP, and the cart. We do a lot of PDP kind of like manipulation here to make sure that we are giving the best options. So you get a lot more of that
Right.
customization more so than like, hey, the lander's drastically different between different experiences.
Totally. There's also like instances where, like, if you're running a shoppable video format, for example, like there's one hero product kind of on the bottom of that experience. And like that's where it makes sense to have the hero product with like maybe the most popular colorways, all of the sizes, all of the inseams. But then if you like scroll down to the shop more section, like that might make sense to kind of break out the same SKU into the different colorways so people can at least see, even if they're like scrolling down the page first. It doesn't happen like as frequently as someone clicking into the product, but like they can see that there's at least more to choose from there. And so I think the nice thing about Fermat is like you can do both. Like you can have one PDP of that hero SKU that is a virtual product. It has all of your colorways or maybe like your top sellers, but then you can also have like the individual SKUs broken down below. And like those individual SKUs can maybe have like different PDP messaging or like different imagery than the one that's like the main like virtual product that's combined. So a lot of like flexibility with what you can do in apparel.
Yeah, and one thing, so we're gearing up to do something with kind of like our Fermat swag stores. So I've been building a lot of funnels with our apparel, and I think one of the other cool thing on like the cart customization is, hey, if someone added a medium short into their cart,
Mm-hmm.
merchandise the upsells with other mediums. So it's like, oh, like I
Yeah,
already knew that you were into a medium on this. Like, let's just make that experience as seamless as possible. So yeah,
yeah,
even like going a step further with that. I think like the
totally,
other one you talked about with like the wives and girlfriends is another like it's actually a persona like
totally.
variation
Yeah,
again, right? Like, hey, I'm going to target the guy's girlfriend or wife and being able to build an experience that is speaking to what they want. Where again, like if I was going to try to do that on the
mm-hmm.
site, I would kind of be like really changing the vibes of the brand. Like if I have to be like this
Yeah,
masculine brand on my site, but then I'm kind of like, I don't know, changing up the language and how I talk about it to speak to that wife or to that girlfriend to buy it for their significant other. At the end of the day, it's like a persona variation. Would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I also like have tried something where it's like your girlfriend is going to be obsessed with these hoodies, or like your girlfriend's going to steal these hoodies from you. Like that is a hook that it's like, oh, if a woman sees this, like I want my boyfriend to have that hoodie because I want that hoodie. Or if a male sees this, it's like, oh, like my girlfriend's gonna love this. Like this is obviously a really comfortable hoodie. Like let me buy it. So I think like there's ways to kind of like change the headlines around so that you can attract like multiple different personas, like you said.
That's really, and you just said something there that I wasn't even thinking about. Like the, oh, my girlfriend will love this is actually like a key value prop. Like that's a value prop funnel, or
Yeah,
you can go like and target the significant other specifically and have like a persona based funnel as well. That's really interesting. Um, all right. I think like, okay, we went through a bunch of different verticals here, how to get started, the templates, like where we would go. I think like I'm going to try to summarize what we talked about and you tell me what you would add. It's like you're getting started. The best way to get started is to look at what you're currently doing in the ad account. What angles are you taking? And then recycle some of that to instead of pointing a bunch of ads to a singular destination, let's see how we can
yeah,
reuse that content to like point to specific destinations. Those destinations should be built around the easiest ones to do is like key value funnels or persona funnels. Be
right,
specific with who you're talking to or be specific to the benefit and carry that all the way through. And as you're going through this, like get started, find what's working, and like you can start to experiment and make tweaks with those. And then you can start to layer in like things that you've always wanted to do, but you never did because you didn't really have control of that post click experience. Now that you're like in the swing of things, you can start to build new ad creative to point to those. Would you say that's kind of like the
totally.
best summary of getting started?
Yeah, I think like take the content that you already have, like you said, repurpose that, try to create more tailored, more personalized experiences for that content. Like use GPT, like transcribe your ads, figure out what messaging is like really working, really resonating. Take your historic top performing creatives, like that's a great place to start. And then once you kind of like have that baseline, then you can kind of get into more like moonshot style experiments where you now as a growth marketer like have control over a site experience, which is Fermat. It's not your main site, it's just a separate environment, and like that's where you can really start to get creative with like what you test, whether that's like SKUs that don't exist on your main site, new customer acquisition offers, new subscription offers. Like that's really where like it starts to get interesting, but it is important to kind of have that like initial starting point, something really basic and easy to get off the ground. So yeah.
I love the then you can go for the moonshot thing. Like one thing I love to say to growth marketers I'm talking to is like, you know that one ad that had a crazy good hook rate or like a crazy good click through rate, but the efficiency on it was terrible. Like go reboot that one and build
Yeah,
a like custom experience for it. Like again, you said it, like you're
totally.
in control, own the outcome. You're able to influence and build the experience from click all the way to conversion, and not kind of have to build in an isolated spot and then kind of hope for the best after that.
100%.
Sarah, this has been amazing. Thanks for sharing your knowledge on this.
Thanks for having me.
Everyone is going to be better off from listening to this with getting started with Vermont.
Hopefully. All right. Thanks, Alex.